This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.
I'm Tom Hoppe, and I'm your host of the Most Painful Podcast. Welcome to the Most Painful Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Hoppe. Well, in our last show, we spoke to a former Special Forces JTF2 operator, and he's also a qualified strength coach. And he talked about the tactical athlete, how to do personalized strength training techniques, such as the 70-30 rule, how your body moves and adapts, all to help increase strength and mobility. A lot of good information on this show. If you missed it, you can listen to it on our Spotify or Apple feed. Now, over the last 4 seasons, we've been talking about chronic pain. We've had many different experts on talking about, low back issues or opioid use and many other topics. On today's show, we're going to talk to Dr. Andrea Furlan, who's an associate professor in the Department of Medicine at the University of Toronto, a staff physician and senior scientist at Toronto Rehabilitation Institute. And she has a book out called The 8 Steps to Deal with Chronic Pain. And we're going to talk about that today. And so, Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom, for inviting me today. Yes,
great to have you on. I've watched a number of your YouTube videos and lots of good information. I always enjoy watching them. We talked a little bit about your book there, and maybe a good way to start is just kind of give an overview of what is chronic pain, and then maybe we can get into some of what the 8 steps are for chronic pain.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. The book is basically what I teach my own patients in the pain clinic here in Toronto, which is, helping them to climb the mountain and conquer their mountain of chronic pain. And so the 8 steps basically summarize lifestyle modifications, explains what is that they should focus first. So even before the first step, what I explain is you need to have a good diagnosis of pain. That's before the first step. You need to know what kind of pain you have, because depending on what kind of pain you have, you need a different treatment. Is your pain nociceptive, neuropathic, or nociplastic? And I'll come back and I explain a little bit of the difference of those 3 kinds of pain. But then the next step is they need to retrain their pain system. And retraining the pain system is really understanding first that you have a pain system in your nerve system. And retraining means feel pain when there is some nociception. But if there is no danger to your body, then you can retrain and not feel that much pain. And then the second step would be identify your emotions that are related to this pain. Sometimes they are angry, frustrated, locked in some, guilt or lack of motivation or depression, and they need to forgive someone. They need to forget something. So those emotions, when they are trapped, it's really hard to conquer chronic pain when you have those emotions. The third step is we talk about sleep. And you see, I'm talking about these steps. I put them on the bottom of the mountain because they're more important than medications. The medications are, it's not the first step. Those things are more important than exercise or medications. They do need to take care of their emotions, sleep, their diet, fix your diet is the 4th step. And then 5th step is about getting help from other people. Who is around you? Who is in your network? Who are the people that support you? And so understanding the importance of the socialization to your pain. And then we talk about step 6 is when you start talking about medications. And I put medications in the step 6 because most of the time, if they take care of the first 5 steps, they may not need medications. So they may get rid of medications. And then step 7 is, the other things that you put in your toolbox, like exercises, physical modalities, changing the way, your ergonomics or your chair and your pillow, your mattress. But again, those things may not be the essential things for yourself. And then step 8 is return to your life. What are your goals in life? Don't stop your life. You need to continue living your life. You have goals, objectives, dreams, and you do need to pursue those things. So that's basically how I guide my patient. I feel myself, I position myself has a guide, but it's their mountain. They have to climb their mountain. I'm here to tell you the steps, but you do need to go and do it.
Yeah, and I like that analogy of the mountain. I mean, that's exactly with the program that we're doing. Actually, we're starting next week, our third one with the veterans. We're providing that information, providing community, providing a goal, and they're actually going to go climb a mountain, literally.
Yeah,
So yeah. I like that analogy. But you talk about the 3 different types of pain, and perhaps maybe give us a bit of insight of what they are so people can understand how that impacts them.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that the person has to have only one type of pain. There are people that have mixed types of pain, right? So they have to understand that. But it's really important because the treatments are different for each kind of pain. So, and I like to explain using the analogy of an alarm system. I think that's easy to understand. So the pain is the alarm system of our body. And we are born with this. Actually, there are people, very rare conditions, and a hereditary condition that a person is unable to feel pain, and then they die at an early age because they can't protect themselves. So pain is good because it protects us, but sometimes it overprotects. So if we are born with this alarm system in our body that is there to detect danger, it's exactly like an alarm system of your house. So I don't know, Tom, if you have an alarm in your house, but then you install sensors, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, you install like a break-ins in the windows or a water leak in the basement.
Yeah.
And you want them to make noise and wake you up in the middle of the night if there is a fire in the kitchen, right? So you do need. So those sensors, they will be communicating, like they will go via a wire or wireless, but they will go to a box on the wall. And that in that box on the wall, you can change, you can give passwords to different people. You can turn it off. You can, like if you're in the house, you don't want the alarm to go off, you just turn the alarm off. If you are on vacation, you turn it on. So you modulate, you control the alarm on that box. But that's not it. That box in the wall communicate with a central office that will then decide what to do. Do I send the ambulance, fire truck, police truck to your house if something's wrong? So our alarm system in our body is exactly the same. We have sensors for pain in many different organs. Our skin is very populated with lots and lots and lots, millions of sensors in our skin. And then we have less sensors inside of our organs because they're kind of protected inside, so we don't need to have too many sensors, but we do have sensors in the bones, in the organs, in the muscles, the tendons, the arteries. Actually, the brain itself does not have sensors for pain. Can you believe that? So those sensors, they're there to detect danger. And then they communicate via the nerves. They go to the spinal cord. And in the spinal cord, there is a synapses, a connection. And in that synapses, we can modulate. That synapses is very important. It's like that box on the wall. We can turn off or on in that synapses in the spinal cord. From that synapses, it goes up to the brain. And now the brain will need to decide what to do with that information. So the brain will need to interpret that information. And we'll need to decide, okay, do I send the ambulance, police, or the fire truck? So the brain will receive that information, will say, okay, do I know what's happening? What eyes, what are you seeing? Ears, what are you hearing? So it will combine all of that information. And if it detects danger, it will signal the alarm. So you will feel pain, right? And then after that injury is taken care, let's say that it was a fracture, and so the bone is healed, the orthopod put it back together, or you had surgery, and the bone is starting to heal, it's taken care. So the brain can say, okay, let's shut down the alarm. We don't need that noise anymore, and let's stop this pain. So usually this happens. It's interesting that I don't know if you ever had a fracture, Tom, but I had.
Yeah.
My fracture was not even healed yet, but the pain was gone just because I saw the orthopod putting a cast on my arm. And just by seeing that my arm was taken care, the pain went away. and
Yeah,
but the
no, you're
bone
right.
was not
Yep.
healed yet, right?
Yep.
So that, which means that my brain said, okay, she doesn't need to feel pain anymore. She can go and live her life again. So when there is a fracture, a toothache, an inflammation, an appendicitis, this is nociceptive pain. Okay, this is equivalent to the house being on fire. Okay, you need to call the fire truck. They need to put up the fire, and then everything is fine. Now, in those nerves that carry the information, or in the spinal cord, or even in the brain, if there is an injury, a disease, a lesion, this is called neuropathic pain. So neuropathic pain, for example, could be a carpal tunnel syndrome. That is a nerve here in the wrist. And if that nerve is compressed in the wrist, the person feel pain in the hand. They start losing the ability to control the muscles. They lose sensibility because the nerve is being compressed in the wrist. You need to go there and decompress the nerve. So this is neuropathic pain, when the pathways, but you know exactly what it is. Examples of neuropathic pain are shingles. It's a virus that affects the nerves, or multiple sclerosis, or a spinal cord injury, or a stroke, or even diabetes that affects the nerves. So these are neuropathic pain. So we know where the injury is, we go there and we fix it. Now, the third type of pain, which is by far the most common in chronic pain. So the first two, nociceptive and neuropathic, they're very common in acute pain setting, although they can become chronic. But now in chronic pain, the most common is nociplastic pain, which means that the pain system, the alarm system, is now deregulated. So you are in a house where your alarm is malfunctioning. So you don't call the fire truck, police, or ambulance because you are hearing the alarm going off all the time. You call what? The alarm company. So you see, the treatment is completely different. If a person has chronic pain, they feel pain in the shoulder, in the back, in the neck, in the hips, but there's nothing wrong. An example is fibromyalgia. So when we examine a person with fibromyalgia, they feel pain all over their body. It doesn't mean that their whole body is broken or damaged or has a disease. Like you don't go and start, injecting things in there everywhere, because that's not where the problem is. The problem is in the alarm itself that is malfunctioning. So this is nociplastic pain.
So that's a lot to absorb. But it's interesting, Dave. I like the analogy of using the alarm, because that is helpful. So when we're talking about chronic pain, then what you're saying is that's actually a break in the alarm system that's not functioning. So if we go back to the fracture, for example, if I understand you correctly, the fracture is healed. So my fracture is all healed. The pain is gone. But yet, even when it's healed, I'm still feeling something down the road. Yep. That's pain. But so it's healed, it's fine, but I'm still feeling pain. Is that what you're saying? The
pain is very real. First of all, I want your audience to understand they're not inventing this pain. They're not creating. This is not psychological pain. The pain is very real. There are biological mechanisms that explain this pain. Now, thanks to a lot of the technology, we can see with function MRI, with other tests, we can see the abnormalities, but they are not in the bone. Although they feel the pain there, the pain is not, you don't fix the bone because there's nothing for you to fix in the bone. You need to fix the pain system. It's almost like that memory of pain didn't go away. It lingers. And another example is a person that had an amputation. They don't have a foot anymore. They don't have a hand. Mastectomy is a type of amputation. People who have mastectomy, they can feel pain in the breast that they don't have anymore. That's amputation, and they have phantom pain. So how can you explain someone feeling pain in a limb or a part of the body that they don't have anymore? Some people that have wisdom tooth removal, they continue having pain in that tooth that doesn't exist anymore. So that's because there is that sensitization of the pain system. We call this central sensitization. It's one of the mechanisms why the pain lingers, although there are other mechanisms why it's the malfunction of the pain system.
And you're saying this is biological versus psychological?
It is totally biological. Yeah.
And so how is that? If it's like, what are the systems in the body that make it biological versus psychological?
So the biology of nociplastic pain, which is very, very interesting. I'm fascinated by this. I love when I go to pain conferences and I see those, scientists, they explain the pain system and where this pain system can be malfunctioning. There are so many places, Tom. There are so many places because the pain system is such a delicate, so coordinated system. Like when you probably heard that we have in our body the respiratory system, we have the digestive system, right? We have the immunological system, the reproductive system. Like kids, when my kids were in grade 6, they had to do a project. They had a list of systems and they had to choose one and do a group presentation. And when I looked at that list, my kids, they came to me and said, "Mom, can you help us?" I said, "Where is the pain system in your list?" "Oh, there's no pain system here." So I think my daughter chose the reproductive system. My son, he chose the immunological system. So it's the same thing. We have a respiratory system. It can break in. The respiratory system starts at the nose. It's you can have problems in the nose, in the larynx, in the lungs, in the alveoli, bronchi. So you can have bronchitis, you can have pneumonia, you can have emphysema, COPD. The same thing, the pain system involves so many organs and so many parts of our body. It can it can malfunction in many different parts. So I'll give an example. One of them, because there are so many. I don't have time here to give you the lecture of all these places, but one of the parts of the pain system that is malfunctioning people, especially with people in fibromyalgia, it's the descending inhibitory pathway. So our brain has the ability, we have an inner pharmacy. I have one of my videos on my channel is about the brain's inner pharmacy. In the brainstem, which is right below the brain, we have a pharmacy that is able to release endogenous opioids, endorphins, enkephalins, dynorphins. It's able to produce serotonin to fight depression. It's able to produce dopamine. It's able to produce cannabinoids. And that inner pharmacy, when you are in pain, opens up and flushes your pain system with endorphins, for example. So which endorphin is much more potent than morphine, for example. We know in people with fibromyalgia, this inner pharmacy is deficient. So we can do tests in laboratory. It's called conditioned pain modulation, CPM, and they don't produce those substances in the same amount that we would expect. So this is one way why people with fibromyalgia have pain all over their body, because almost, right now, Tom, you probably are blocking a lot of pain that you are feeling in your body because you are producing those substances if you have your brainstem normal. But people with fibromyalgia, they're not producing those, so they're feeling pain from everywhere without an injury. They don't need to have an injury or disease in their body to feel pain.
That's interesting. So because in the journey of learning about pain, because I like anybody else who's come out of the military, I would suggest that maybe many people in the Canadian population, the understanding of pain is very limited to none. Yeah. So just learning about it, it's always goes back, biopsychosocial model, and that it's, sometimes it's in your head. It's like, I'm dumbing it down, but that's where so it's interesting to hear that there's actual, like you've stated a true connection between the biology of it, right? The brain is not producing what it needs to do to shut down the pain that the person is struggling with. So if that's the case, can something be done to fix that, and then they don't have that pain anymore?
So that's the first step, retraining your pain system. That's why I put retraining your pain system in the bottom of the mountain, because the patients that I've had over the years with the best success in conquering their chronic pain are the ones who understand this. If they're able to understand, okay, I have some component of nociplastic pain, and again, they can have mixed pain. But everyone with chronic pain, I've never seen anyone who has had pain for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years that did not develop some sensitization of the pain system. So I think every single patient who has pain ongoing for a long time, they do need to understand that some component of amplification of pain comes from this central sensitization, from this lack of, producing your own endogenous opioids. And also, we also know that the person, sometimes how can I say this? The person that has pain it's much more important than sometimes the pain that the person has. In my clinic, I spend time trying to diagnose what they have, looking at their MRIs, looking at the tests. But that's the simplest part for me. Where I spend most time is trying to understand who is this person in front of me, because the baggage that they bring in their life, their childhood, their emotions, that predisposes their brain to develop more nociplastic pain. So if they have more resilience to life stressors, and I believe in your population, people who are veterans, oh my God, they have, fought and they have huge resilience. And these are strong people physically and emotionally, their personality, but they may have psychological issues, traumas, and some problems that they carry from childhood. And that kind of primes the brain to be in this danger area, in this danger signal. And again, in your brain, we cannot distinguish. The brain is amazing, but if the brain detects danger for any reason, then it's going to be in the alert mode. And I'll give you an example. This danger mode could be just trying to be perfectionism. Trying to be perfect at everything you do creates a lot of stress to your brain. And I've seen people that they perpetuate that chronic pain, that stage of nociplastic pain, just by trying to be perfect, just by trying to please everybody, to be everything for everybody. And then the brain, because nobody can do that, will be in the danger mode, and that pain will be perpetuated. I don't know if that was clear, but I've seen a lot of people. It's not a psychological problem, psychiatric disease or personality disorder. It doesn't need to be that serious. It's just putting your brain in a danger mode. If you can get rid of that, you will get rid of the nociplastic pain much easier, because you're retraining your brain that you're not in danger.
And I would, as you're talking, I mean, that comes to the same thing when we talk about the veterans who we know through research do very well in a pain clinic, but when they go home and they still do not have purpose, they're struggling with adjustment out of the military, it seems that their pain is worse. So that kind of, I think, ties into what you're saying. Is they may not have I guess I don't know how I would put this. They may not have a psychological problem, but they're dealing with adjustment. They're dealing with purpose, their new life, and that impacts basically sitting on the couch. What am I going to do? And that impacts their chronic pain in a sense. Yep. So when we look at the 8 steps that you talk about, I know we don't have much time left on the show. You're saying, like, you want to start, medication is always the last. Let's start with lifestyle. Let's start with knowledge. Let's start with fitness. Is there anything else you'd add to that?
So I'd like to add about opioids, a little sentence about opioids.
Okay.
That opioids are great, especially for nociceptive pain, that pain that is a pain coming from an injury, an acute injury, a trauma, an inflammation. Some types of neuropathic pain also respond well to opioids, but also to anticonvulsants, antidepressant medications, because they kind of block the nerves. But when you diagnose nociplastic pain, then opioids can make it worse, because it's almost like putting a gasoline on the fire. They will activate some receptors in the pain system that is already malfunctioning and make it malfunction even more. So we do need to be really careful when the person has nociplastic mechanisms of pain, not to give them opioid for too long, maybe for a short period, if they have a surgery, if they have a toothache, something acute, yes, but not to do chronically.
Yeah, and that actually makes sense now that you say it that way. And I guess the other thing, which we probably wouldn't have time for today, but is all like one of the things you talked about is nutrition and then of course supplements and that. So maybe we'll have to have you back on the show again to talk about that.
My pleasure to come back.
Well, thank you and if you're looking for a good book to read, 8 Steps to Conquer Chronic Pain. So that's from Dr. Andrea Furlan. Well, thank you, Andrea, for being on the show. It's great to have you. Lots of info. So on our next show, we're going to have Catherine Bernier talk about children in pain and the SKIP organization. So hit subscribe and the like button. That should be a good show coming up. For feedback about the show or more information on chronic pain, you can visit our website, veteranschronicpain.ca, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Chronic Pain COE, and on Instagram at chronicpain_COE. Once again, Andrea, thanks for being on the show. You know, I think people are going to be tired of me saying this because it's a broken record, but I just could keep talking for longer and longer because the information's so great. Everybody we have on has wonderful information to provide, so thank you. And for the audience out there, stay safe and keep the hope alive.
The Most Painful Podcast
is produced for the Chronic Pain Center of Excellence by Story Studio Network.